Every day, your City of Tempe staff goes above and beyond to make sure our community gets the best possible services and the most for our tax dollars. But how good is good? How do you measure it? And how do we know what we really need to make progress on some of our most pressing issues? To guide us, we developed a series of goals designed to help us improve our community based on our Tempe City Council's 5 strategic priorities. Reaching for excellence, we are comparing ourselves against the rest of the nation as well as ourselves. Some of our goals will help save lives. Some of them will help us save money. All of them will help us make Tempe a better place. Send us your ideas and suggestions to tempeaccelerates@tempe.gov and visit us at tempe.gov/tempeaccelerates.
All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Tempe Accelerates. We have a couple of very interesting presentations today on 2 of our performance measures, Measure 1.20, Victims of Crime Trauma Support, and Performance Measure 1.21, Youth Alcohol and Marijuana Usage. And my understanding is that the team that will be presenting on Victims of Crime Trauma Support will be going first. So like the video just said, they'll have about 10 minutes to give their presentation. We encourage you to ask questions. Thank you for being here for that purpose. If you don't ask questions, again, on your forms that you have back, are in the back of the room, you can fill out questions and comments they can look at later. So I'd invite the first team up to begin their presentation. Thanks.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Kristen Charlo, and I am the Care 7 manager, and Care 7 is a work group in the Human Services Department.
And I'm Maria Gonzalez, and I'm the Victim Services Coordinator for Care 7.
So our performance measure is 1.20. It is under Council Priority 1, which is safe and secure communities. And the performance measure, as stated, is ensure 100% of victims of crimes are contacted for trauma support within 48 hours of Care 7's notification, as measured by the Care 7 Trauma Support Contact Assessment. So the important part of that is within 48 hours of our notification. So why does this measure matter?
Various reasons, actually, but the ones that we've identified that you'll see up here, to start with, it's going to be victim safety, both emotional and physical safety of the victim. We really want to make sure that we're getting in contact with them within 48 hours to ensure that any needs in regards to safety are addressed and assisted with. The next one would be to provide information on a timely manner. A lot of that has to do with the criminal process and the investigative process, but that also has to do with the fact that somebody who's undergone a very traumatic situation may not be able to make those decisions that need to be happening within that time frame that the court process is providing. So we want to make sure that we're providing that assistance, because sometimes the traumatic situations just don't allow individuals to make informed decisions, which leads us to educating and empowering the victims through both the criminal and the court proceedings, and also informing them of their victims' rights, as we have a legal
Obligation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So where are we on this performance measure? We have met our goal of 100% of crime victims being notified within 48 hours of our notification. So I think that our unit, the Victim Services Unit, is doing a really good job of reaching out to people within the time frame. But during the process of collecting all of this data and preparing for this presentation, we realized that the target was 100% and we were meeting it, and we were yay, yay, yay. However, we understand that this is a process measure and not an outcome measure. We define contacting as sending victims either a snail mail letter, an email, or a phone call. So those are the methods by which we contact victims. We recommend that now that we realize that have attained our goal, that we should retire this performance measure, but keep it as a measurable strategy supporting 2 new performance measures. Those new performance measures would be 1.29, which is engagement rate with Care 7, And what we hope to do is achieve a 75% engagement rate for trauma support with victims of crimes and persons experiencing a crisis. We define engagement as when a Care 7 team member has actually spoken with the victim. So, and providing information about the case, what services are available, and pretty much just that one phone conversation or in-person conversation where we're providing information. After that, we would propose 1.30, which is achieving a 50% rate for victims of crime receiving actual direct services. Not information, but actually engaging in services. Services can mean a variety of things, but some typical ones are transportation, court accompaniment, and possibly assistance with relocation. That can be shelter services or actually moving. So the difference between the two performance measures is subtle, but important. The strategies by which we propose to attain our new goals are to educate all parties involved. So across departments, but specifically with our partners in PD, to understand the importance of identifying a victim and referring them to Care 7. This ensures that victims are connected and appropriate services are provided in a timely manner. So if a victim is unaware that Care 7 services exist, they may not engage until we reach out to them, and they still may not understand what that is. So we're hoping to provide some education, to develop an automatic system for notifications that does not involve paper. Currently, the system that we, part of the system that we utilize involves paper and interoffice mail. So as you can imagine, that takes a little bit more time than we would like for it to, and may present a barrier. And we would like to expand our current staffing to ensure that there's enough personnel to meet the needs of the victims. So we want to make sure that we have the time available to give a victim everything that they ask for.
Now with this, there are challenges, and some that we've identified is oftentimes we don't have the correct information for victims, or insufficient information for that matter. The way that Chris just discussed, the antiquated way of receiving some referrals through mail or interoffice mail may draw some barriers for a victim, or to be able to participate or to be able to communicate. The actual victim barriers that exist, not actually having a phone, fear of being able to engage their process, relocation, safety reasons, trust issues may also become somewhat of a challenge for us. And finally, to be able to have an easily accessed or a centralized place where people can come in and feel safe to be able to try to access some of these services.
So we believe that victims already have a lot of barriers that are inherent. So if, for instance, if you're a victim of domestic violence and we're calling your home phone, you may not be able to answer and speak with us freely because your abuser may be present. So that's a typical barrier that we face. Believe it or not, poor handwriting. You know, a 3 can look like an 8, and then we've got the wrong phone number. So that's part of the problem. I think that when we were talking about this, and we understand, because it's our job to understand why victims may be resistant to engaging in services, and we understand that. I want to make an analogy. It's not the best analogy, but you can kind of get a feeling for how it feels. Most of us will never be a victim of a violent crime, thank God. Most of us, the vast majority of us will never experience a violent crime. And the judicial process, the criminal justice system that goes along with that. But we look at it like this. I don't want to go to the dentist. I don't like the dentist. I especially don't like my dentist, the one I currently have. But you know you have to go. It's uncomfortable. You dread it. Sweaty palms when you get there. Your heart rate is up. You just hate the entire experience. And then if you have a dentist like I do, that's not the kindest person in the world. She does a great job, but she's not concerned about how I'm feeling when I'm in the chair. So I've never been back to her. We know that victims are feeling all of those same things. They're elevated, they're afraid, they're unsupported, they're alone, they're isolated, they're trepidatious about how long this road is going to be and what it's going to take. Our job is to connect with them, soothe them, help them understand that they're in the driver's seat. We're there to assist them. We're not going to leave their side, and we're going to make it as pleasant as it can possibly be for them so that they'll come back to the office. So that's the best way I can explain it, knowing that most of you have never been victimized, but everybody goes to the dentist. Well, except for me. So, I think that's it. Any questions? Or ideas?
Okay. Microphone in the back for anyone who has a question for our presenters.
Oh, we were perfect.
Shy. No.
Is your proposed measure for service distribution contingent on violent crime? Or because it looked like it was all crime? Even if, so now we have online reporting and things like that, and even for minor crimes, you expect half of people need services?
If people want services, we'll provide them. So I'm going to give an example that is not the best, but again, we had a client several years ago, a victim who had their laptop stolen while they were at McDonald's. I mean, that probably is not that big of a deal to many of us. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's not devastating. This person was devastated because that's all they have. That was their connection to the world, and they went to McDonald's because there was free Wi-Fi. And so that person couldn't look for a job, couldn't do a lot of things that they needed to do. So it's all relative, right? And so while most of the people that we engage with are victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, robbery, physical assault, yes. If somebody wants something because their bike was stolen and it upsets them and they need some help processing that, we're going to help them. So it does not have to be violent. It's just that most of them are that we assist with.
And there, you talked about how that there were handwriting challenges that would cause, I guess, communication problems. What's your plan for how you would deal with that? I mean, how is that information collected right now, and what your plan is?
So when we talk about that, we, as Care 7 advocates, receive quite a bit of referrals from different sources. Well, majority from PD, but different forms. So I'll reword that. One of the ways that we receive referrals is something that we call blue sheets, which really in turn are victims' rights sheets. We receive them through interoffice mail, and those are the sheets that are filled out by the officer on scene with the victim, acknowledging that they have victims' rights and their services out there, and then they sign off and they have all the information from the report on that piece. So the police department gets a copy, the victims get a copy, and then Care 7 automatically gets a copy eventually. So when we talk about the handwriting piece, that's what we're talking about. That's one of the things that we have a barrier on, because if you're on scene, handwriting may not be the thing that you're focused on. What you're focused on is what the situation you're dealing with. But because sometimes we're not focusing on that, we oftentimes get incorrect information that impedes us from being able to contact a victim within 48 hours. There's an actual attempt within 48 hours, but the successful piece may not be there because of that barrier. So being able to address that, I don't necessarily have an answer for you. That's kind of what's happening right now in that process, and being able to talk to the Tempe Police Department and seeing if there are any solutions to that. But at this point in time, I don't necessarily have a solution to the handwriting piece.
So thankfully, we realized a long time ago that the blue sheets were just one form of a referral. Maria and her work group have developed some other methods of getting victim referrals on their own. So they check the arrests twice a day so that they can see who the victims are, what the arrests were for, and who the victims are, and they'll reach out that way. They're embedded 2 days a week in the actual police department. They have an office there. And so they're getting victim referrals in the office as well from the detectives. So a variety of ways lessens the chance that we're getting any of it wrong. But we have ideas. It's just how we develop a database or a software system to do that. So we're working on it, but in the meantime, we're not letting it stop us.
Are there other cities nationwide doing what you do? And if so, have you benchmarked against them?
I haven't been to every city in the nation, although I've asked Naomi to send me many times. I think that what we do know is that what we're doing here in Tempe is incredibly unique. And in that, our crisis response team, our victim services, and our counseling are all under one umbrella of Care 7 in the Human Services Department. So that is not happening. I don't believe that's happening anywhere in the nation, and I'll tell you why. Because Maria and her colleagues in PD have been asked to present at a national conference, because this is really a unique partnership that we have of Tempe Fire, Tempe PD, and Tempe Human Services working together to attend to people's immediate crises. So what we're doing is a fairly cutting edge. I think that we try. We make a mistake, we back up, we try again. But I think that we are the only city that's doing this exactly how we're doing this. And part of what has been the biggest success of late is having the advocates actually have offices in PD. Has been an incredible opportunity for us, for them, but mostly for victims. It's really changed the way that we approach cases. Good, thank you.
All right. Got one over here.
Thanks. This is a great program already, and I appreciate your efforts to try to always improve it. It's great. Your proposed measures, can we see those again? The proposed measures? Oh, sorry. But
No.
well, I only had one question about them. Well, your proposed measure was to ensure that a certain percentage of people take advantage of services, and it was expressed in terms of transportation or
Direct services. So transportation, court accompaniment, we'll do anything. We don't have really parameters
okay.
necessarily about what we'll do. Those are just
I see.
examples.
So when I saw this, I was afraid that what would happen is you would have folks who didn't necessarily need transportation or court accompaniment or assistance with relocation, and you would somehow therefore be deemed as being unsuccessful. And what you really want to know is, did we, and then in your next sentence, I wrote it down, give victims everything they ask for. That's really what you want to know, right? Is, did we satisfy all of your needs?
And guess what? Some victims don't want anything.
But I'm wondering how, you ask them, I guess, you survey them, you say, have we given you everything that you need?
Do we have a satisfaction
Yeah,
survey?
I appreciate it. So it isn't limited to these three.
Not even close. Just when I think that we've done everything for somebody, we drive a lady and her 2 cats to Flagstaff in a blizzard.
Right, so your real measure is,
Just make that up.
No, she did
We
not.
drove a lady and her 2 cats to Flagstaff in a
that
blizzard.
didn't surprise me, but.
Yeah.
So your real measure is, did we provide you whatever you needed at the time? That, right?
Thank you for making that.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, it's really hard to, one of the challenges that we face is measuring our success, because success for one person may be very minor, right? Maybe success for one domestic violence victim is that she got to leave her house today. Whereas success for another domestic violence victim is that she moved across the country. So it's a very difficult thing to measure. So, but our funder is, the dollars that fund this program are federal dollars with the state pass-through. We do a lot of reporting, lots and lots of reporting. So, but thank you. I'll take any help with those future performance measures that anybody wants to give.
Very good. Are there other questions in the audience? Remember, as always, if you think of something, you can always put it in paper, put it in writing, and send it into the team after the fact as well. I know they would appreciate the assistance.
Oh, yeah.
Well done. Thank you so
very
much.
much.
Appreciate it. All right. Let us go ahead and welcome up the next team. Performance measure 1.21, teen alcohol and marijuana use.
Good afternoon.
PowerPoint up. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Hillary Cummings, and I am the program director for the Tempe Coalition, which is a grant-funded program of Tempe Community Council. And with me,
I'm Octavia Harris. I'm the interim Deputy Director for Human Services, and I serve as the Interim Executive Director of Tempe Community Council.
All right, so we have 1.21 is our performance measure under safe and secure communities as well. And it is youth alcohol and underage drinking and marijuana usage. So our performance measure, Octavia?
Currently is to achieve the rate for the use of alcohol by Tempe youth 18 years or younger, less than or equal to Arizona Youth Survey's previous 2-year baseline. This is being revised to state achieve rates of 0 for alcohol and marijuana use by 10th and 12th grade students in Tempe as measured by the biennial Arizona Youth Survey.
So why does this measure matter? Because of the developing adolescent brain. Adolescents, their brains, girls, do not develop usually until 25. Boys a little bit later usually until in their later 20s. So the adolescent brain, just to give you an idea, they're used to taking risks. That's sort of their job, is to take risks and push the parameters, right? So they're used to taking risk-taking behaviors, right? And it's the job of the parents to reel them back in. So what we want to be able to do is prevent that first-time use so that they aren't using alcohol or marijuana on a more regular basis. So where are we right now? What we're looking at is the past 30-day use of alcohol and marijuana for our 10th and 12th graders. What we see right now is that 24.3% of our 10th and 12th graders here in Tempe, and let me specify this is in Tempe only, are using alcohol. That's about 1 in 4 of our 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds. And 16.1% of our 10th and 12th graders have used marijuana in the past 30 days. Now, those measures are from 2016, and I'll talk about that a little bit in a second. Our target, yes, it's aspirational. Wouldn't we love it if all of our kids, 0, were using alcohol and marijuana? We know that's a big job, but that's what we are hoping for. The data comes from the Arizona Youth Survey, which comes from the Arizona Criminal Justice Commission. It's administered every 2 years on even years. So we just actually had the AYS administered this past spring in our Tempe schools, all around Arizona, but for us, our Tempe schools, for 8th, 10th, and 12th graders. It has 26-year history, the Arizona Youth Survey. And why that's important is because it's self-reported, by the way, is because it can show us the trends, to show us if we're doing our jobs, if we're being successful at decreasing use of alcohol and marijuana in our youth. Our strategies, I need my glasses for this one. I was hoping to avoid wearing my glasses. So one, we want to partner with, the city wants to partner with us, the Tempe Coalition, as I said, is a grant-funded program of Tempe Community Council. The things that we're doing right now are we have media campaigns, which I'll show you in a second, to impact youth and parental attitudes related to underage drinking and marijuana use. Our campaigns that we have right now are 21 or too young, and right under that you can see it says sometimes no is the right answer. And currently what we're doing is if you walk up and down Mill Avenue or a lot of the restaurants here in Tempe, you'll see there are window clings on the front windows. Our youth have gone out and talked about our campaign and told the bar owners and restaurant owners the 21 or too young. It's that simple. Our marijuana campaign, geared for parents, is support your kids' interests so marijuana won't be one of them. And if you look at the hand, it has, painting and sports and reading, so that we can take a positive approach and say, so the kids aren't using marijuana, let's support their interests, okay? As well, we are doing community education to minimize underage drinking and marijuana use by making youth, parents, and educators aware of the impact on adolescent brain development, as I mentioned earlier. Being able to feature some PSA videos of youth speaking to parents about enforcing rules and setting boundaries. We already have these out on our website, tempecoalition.org, where we had youth talking to parents. And we really made it very organic. We asked some questions, but they were very clear as to what they want their parents to know. Be my parent. You know, don't be my friend, be my parent. Most importantly, don't use with me, which surprisingly we do here. Renewing publicity efforts related to the social host ordinance. I won't go into that now. If anyone has questions, gladly I'll answer. But the social host ordinance was developed by the Tempe Coalition in 2012 and enacted with our police force. And what we have is it's a fine structure so that if there is underage drinking, a party is broken up by the police department, then they are fined, and it's a structure of the fine. We also want to work with our many community partners, and I say many, underlined. We have a lot of great people sitting at the coalition table who are there, and some of them are here today, to reinforce that education and support the community. We also are looking to create, and this is our big thing, is creating healthy engagement opportunities for youth in out-of-school time. So we want to be able to partner with our friends here, Mayor's Youth Advisory Commission, I see them sitting here, and Kid Zone, which kid, not kids zone, Kid Zone, I got that incorrect, and our recreation, our Parks and Recreation Department, and some other local businesses and what they're doing out there to promote educational activities for our teens. What are our challenges? Our challenges is that we always need more data. Right now, we really are focused on the Arizona Youth Survey only. And what we want to be able to understand, one of the big things we see with marijuana in particular is the perception of harm from marijuana. Our youth, 71.3% of our youth see little or no risk to using marijuana, even over 50% on a regular basis. That's pretty astounding. As well, we hear anecdotally, although we need data around this, that parents don't think it's a big deal. A quote that we've heard is, "I'd rather my kid smoke marijuana than drink because they won't drive their car into a tree." That's a direct quote. The community, what are the perceptions in the community? We have, our dispensaries have increased, but we have a low perception of harm in the community as well. So we want to look at that data so we really have a good sense of that. As well with the social host ordinance, we want to have a better understanding of that. Again, anecdotally, we've talked with the police department and know that they're out there enforcing it, but they could certainly use some help with education and awareness out in the community, even to know that the ordinance exists. We also are looking this coming year to be working more with ASU because although our funding, and we are grant funded through federal drug-free communities funding to look at 12 to 18-year-olds, but we want to look at all those 18, 19, and 20-year-olds that are right here in our community who are also not of drinking age or marijuana. So we want to work with them on that and their community. And as well, one of the big things that we see is access to alcohol. Particularly our 12th graders, almost 30% of them are getting their alcohol from parties. Look where we are. I live right here in the neighborhood, and I see red Solo cups on my front yard on a Sunday morning. There are a lot of parties going on, and we are not only not looking at our high school youth who have access to those parties and are telling us they are, but also those 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. Another thing is education, the difference between CBD and THC. And what that means is the difference between medical marijuana and recreational marijuana. We feel that it's important, regardless of where things go legally with it going on the ballot and possibly being voted. We just want to, it's important that we make sure that people understand that the adolescent brain is not developed and that there is a difference between cannabinoids, which is CBD, used for a lot of things like chronic pain and anxiety, versus THC, which is the mind-altering component of marijuana. So that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Hi, thank you for your presentation. With respect to alcohol use in 10th and 12th graders, I kind of have two questions and comments. The first is your campaign that to me is very reminiscent of Nancy Reagan's Just Say No type campaign. And, those types of campaigns as with abstinence-only type campaigns, typically are not that successful. So my question is, what are you guys doing to have this program be different? The second comment I have is with respect to religious practices. So in my community, if you're a 12th grader, you're probably going to have a glass of wine at Shabbat, every Shabbat with your parents, and that's cool. So I'm not sure how that plays into your 0% goal, or if that's really the problem you're trying to address.
Well, great question. Thank you very much. Questions. To the first one, I absolutely agree with you. Those of us in the trenches, we know that you can't go up to kids and say, don't do drugs, kids, they're bad for you, because they know that. And just say no doesn't work. The DARE program, it was successful for a short period of time. Trying to just get kids not to use, that, I don't think that that is what we're looking to do when we say zero. Zero is aspirational, meaning that we don't want kids to use that as an alternative, right, to if they're unhappy. We see a lot of kids who are stressed and anxious, and that's why they're using, or they don't have anything better to do. So what we're really trying to do, as part of our mission statement, is to help young people, reach their full potential, so that they're not using. And by that, I mean using on a regular basis. Certainly, the idea of someone who makes a choice in their home to give a child alcohol, or marijuana for that matter, since we're dealing with the two substances, that's their business. Our business is to provide them with the education to say, here it is, the adolescent brain is not yet developed, and we want to make sure these kids are healthy by giving them the best information that we have. Then people can make whatever choice that they want to make. So we're certainly not making judgment calls. We're just trying to provide the education and the data. Did that answer? Okay.
All right. Other questions? Oh, no questions.
So just to kind of piggyback onto that, understanding that many people use substances to self-medicate for pain that they feel, emotional pain caused by trauma, how much of the services that you're providing focus on adverse childhood experiences and the effects of trauma on children?
We have had the esteemed Lori Robinson from Care 7. Was this a commercial?
No, I think that until we talk about it a lot.
Thank you for bringing it up, because it is very important. And one of the things that the coalition is really looking to do, we've been doing and we are continuing to do, is to provide workshops like what, for those of you that don't know, Lori Robinson with Care 7 does amazing workshops on trauma-informed care and understanding the ACEs, which is the Adverse Childhood Experiences Test. And we really believe, as the coalition, that we want to inform our coalition members so they can make better decisions, and the parents and our community members. And that is a huge part of it. And thank you for bringing it up, because we are really looking at all of those things. So.
What have you found out? I don't know if it states it in the survey, but with regards to where these youth are first, I guess, getting introduced with alcohol and marijuana, where and with whom?
Where are they getting it at first?
Yeah, and with whom?
Our younger youth, the 8th graders that are measured in the Arizona Youth Survey, a lot of them are getting it from home. Some of them are getting it from friends, because if you think about, both alcohol and marijuana, when they're young like that, it's a social experience. So they're getting it a lot of times from family or friends. As they get older, that's when they're starting to go out and go to parties. And first-time use here in Arizona is between 12 and 13 years of age. So we not only look at first-time use, we also look at, have they ever tried, because that's what kids are going to do, right? I mean, that's part of those risk-taking behaviors. They're going to try those things. We don't want them to, and we want to try and educate parents on how to help them not do that. But they're going to try it anyway. But yeah, they're getting it from home, the younger ones. I think what happens is that as they get older, they go, mom and dad might be paying attention. So then that's when they're going out to the parties.
So I appreciate your aspirational goal, but I would encourage you to come up with a goal that you think would show that the city of Tempe is successfully allocating resources to achieve what is reasonable in the community. Because what will happen is if it comes to a choice between allocating resources to achieve this or another goal like another park ranger, which would reduce crime in the parks, this is not going to get funded because what will happen is the city council will say, it doesn't matter if we give $10 or $10 million, we'll never achieve the goal. We don't know if what we're doing now is pretty good compared to other communities or not so good. So I know it's aspirational, but if you really want to be able to achieve a goal and allocate the correct resources to do what you think is best for the community, I would encourage you to come up with a goal that compared to other cities, we would be doing well. So
I don't disagree with you. I think that, as we looked at these goals, it was hard to find a number that, if we want to reach a number that is, how do I put this? Well, we've done our job. The job is over. We've got it done. Okay, we wanted to get down from 16.1% to 15%. It's, we want to keep going at it.
And I
You know what I'm
appreciate
saying?
that. I appreciate that. And for a public
Yeah.
service announcement, that makes perfect sense. But when you're talking about allocating resources, which is the purpose of performance measurements, we really want to know, can we allocate more resources to achieve the goal that we've set for ourselves? And this one will always seem to me like it really doesn't matter if you allocate more resources. We don't know where we are in comparison to other cities. So I would just encourage you to identify that level where you would at least think that we're doing well compared to other cities, and let's try to achieve that.
Sort of rate of progress towards the goal. In other words, you can incline into zero over a period of years by doing this much, but if you accelerate it, right, not to plug it too much, what would be that thing that would cause you to get closer faster? It's aspirational, but there are concrete indicators you can look at over time by the results of this youth survey that will tell you, are you making a dent? Right?
And one of the reasons too why we did it this way was that we were clearly explained by the Arizona Criminal Justice Commission that it's somewhat of a moving target because their instrument changes from year to year. So that if we found ourselves measuring from year to year, we weren't going to necessarily get a good number. But I appreciate what you're saying because that does make sense. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for your talk. And I just had a quick question about the older kids. I get the high school and reaching out to the parents and being able to use that strategy for the younger kids. But when it comes to university and reaching out to ASU students, has there been any thought about looking at the strategies of reaching out to these kids because you have this influx of students coming from out of state mostly, and they're living on their own for the first time and experimenting with things, and it would be more difficult to reach, I guess, out to this group of population via their parents, and they might not pay attention to PSAs as much, or the loud party fines, they might not care.
We have begun working really closely with ASU's Health and Wellness Department. I can't speak exactly to what they are already doing out there with trying to reach out to families, out of state and to be able to reach those youth directly. But we've got them at the table. We've got, as I mentioned, we've got educators from the Health and Wellness Department. They have a strong recovery program at ASU. So we're just beginning that relationship with them, but they absolutely see the need to be able to reach those youth.
Well, I will add, as an actual parent of an ASU student, so even though I'm here, ASU is making efforts to engage parents, especially first, second year parents, to ensure that they have the supports, that they know how to support their student. And even though legally they're adults, that they still do need that familial support. So ASU does have ways of doing this that even goes beyond their health and wellness center. So they're doing it through the first year student programming that they have. They also do it through mentoring, things like that. So they are making some efforts that go beyond just one particular area.
That's good, thanks.
They should put a statement with the tuition bill.
I would appreciate that.
Student Services is working also with the Tempe and ASU PD with those, with the social host ordinance. So that makes a bit of a difference.
Okay, great questions. Anyone else? If not, I will say thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you. As we said earlier, we do have, and hopefully you have the survey, fill out comments, and those will be forwarded to the groups who are working on these performance measures to assist them in continuing to perfect that. So thank you again for those of you who made it here. Really appreciate your in-person participation. For those of you who are watching on Tempe 11, I encourage you to go to the website and take a look at all of the performance measures that we're working on as an organization and the progress that we're making. It's being built more and more and getting more and more populated with information and data every day, and has become and will continue to be an interactive resource for our community to track the progress that we're making on the things that matter the most to Tempe. So with that, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Send us your ideas and suggestions to tempeaccelerates@tempe.gov and visit us at tempe.gov/tempeaccelerates.